right, welcome back to the Roundtable, the last show of 2022. We got a packed panel tonight. We got my man D-Style Boxing all the way from across the pond. We got Base the Kid. We got Hot Boxing Minute. We got the Mighty Ring IQ, and we have Michael Montero. Big story broke today. Tank Davis is sitting in a jail cell right now, and I just just got hold of this article, and it's saying he's in Broward County Jail in Florida a day after allegedly striking a woman on the right side of her head with a slap on Tuesday afternoon. And for those of us who have followed Tank, man, I mean this isn't new. There's video footage of him choking out his baby mama, shaking her in a crowd of people, right? So if he's gonna do something like that, right, with people watching, what's he gonna do? I know D-Style, we talked about this earlier. What's he gonna do when someone's not watching? So there's kind of a pattern of behavior here. There's a track record. Then the incident too, the hit and run. And I heard the lady talking about the pregnant woman that was in the car, said that he actually made eye contact with her while she was crying, and he looked her dead in the eyes, turned away, and just went about his business and left the scene after looking her in the eyes, seeing the pain and anguish and tears, rolling down her face. What kind of man could do something like that, man? So you have to question this guy's character. Let's start with you, Mike. What's going on? What do you think of this whole thing? And this does not look good for Tank. It kind of looks like he's going to do some jail time after this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the first time, right? So
yeah.
It seems to be part of a pattern of behavior. And at some point, you have to question maybe his mental health, what might be going on here. In all seriousness, because, I mean, I've been having fun on Twitter today, but not really with the Tank situation, but more so with Steven Espinoza and the guys at Showtime. I'm sure we'll talk about that. They're being silent, but it sounds like the kid might need help, because this is not the first incident, and it's up to his management maybe to get him around the people that he needs to be around and away from the people that he needs to be away from. Because again, as you mentioned, Beeb, that video, I mean, he was doing that in public with thousands of people around. If you have the balls to do that in public with everybody around, what are you doing behind closed doors? And I have to mention this. His mentor, Floyd Mayweather, did literal prison time for domestic violence. So, I mean, there's a track record there of people that he's been around. My question is, he's got a fight in less than 2 weeks. What happens with that? He's headlining a pay-per-view card. His pay-per-views have been doing 100,000 or so buys regardless. With him off that card, they can maybe go forward, but you can't do a pay-per-view. I don't know what they're going to do. And I have to bring up Steven Espinoza here. I'm not expecting him to say anything right now. It's obviously still all unfolding. And we should mention, this is all alleged, okay? Nothing's been proven. We don't know. But he has been arrested. As you mentioned, he's in a jail cell. So it's legit. But Steven Espinoza, they pulled Raleigh Romero off of a card based on allegations online. He wasn't arrested, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, he wasn't arrested.
Fired right now.
He wasn't arrested. No charges were filed. All they were doing, they were in the process of doing an investigation. They were just basically asking questions, and nothing was found. There was no evidence, right? There was just someone's word against his without any evidence. So,
which
for them,
online means nothing. It means absolutely nothing, because things get said about me every day online that are complete fucking bullshit.
Exactly.
So it's nonsense, right? You pulled him off of a card for that. This is a literal arrest. A police officer felt there was enough evidence, circumstantial evidence maybe, but there was enough there to arrest this man. So what are you going to do? And he's been mum. And I only mentioned Steven Espinoza because he's one of the loudest virtue signalers on all of boxing Twitter. He gets in on all the hashtag activism. And I'm not going to go down a political rabbit hole, I promise, guys. I'm just saying he's one of the loudest people that does that. He's also beat up on Eddie Hearn with certain situations and other promoters where they've kind of been hypocritical in the past. And here's a situation where he should step up, because this is, short of Deontay Wilder and Errol Spence, Gervonta Davis is probably the biggest star in their universe, right? I'm not counting Jake Paul. But so this is your chance to step up and make a statement, dude. If this is legit, you got to do something about this. You need to make a public statement.
That's definitely a double standard for sure. Ring, what do you think of this mess, bro?
I mean, they just have really bad luck over there. I think about it with Gervonta. I don't want to get too psychological, but it does boil down to upbringing. You know, some of us were raised in a way where we don't hit women, and to some of us, it's perfectly okay. It's hard for me to imagine that as many instances of this that have happened in the past, that, oh, yeah, they're just lying. They're just making it up. No, just like Mike said, just like you said, Habib, he was shaking up homegirl in front of people. So behind closed doors, when ain't nobody around, what do you do then? And, you know, I remember I saw something that he threatened to shoot a girl in the face, or at least the girl claimed that he threatened to shoot her in the face.
Holy shit. It's not funny, but it's so fucked up. It is funny, right? Yeah. I hear you, man.
But I'm like, yo, this dude is off the chain, fam. Like, yeah, you off the chain, fam. Like, so, I mean, I can't get into the psychology stuff because that all boils down to upbringing. But I, like Mike, take a focus on, you know, how this affects Showtime, because they got to pull this thing. I'm sorry. They have to pull this thing, like, seriously. Even if it's alleged, you know, there's been an arrest. There's 911 audio from the alleged victim saying, yo, he's going to kill me. It don't look good. And you can't justify, oh, well, it's alleged, so we should, you know, try to make some money off this show 2 weeks from now. Like, nah, dog. You got to pull the plug on this, bro. Like, I'm sorry. And I understand that it's innocent until proven guilty, which it is. But, you know, in the event that there's an actual conviction, do you want to be the network executive? And do you want to be the network that decided, well, let's just wait, you know, because we want to make some money off of this show? Nah, you got to pull it. If you were able to pull Rolly Romero out of the fight on the premise of allegations, you have to pull Gervonta Davis on the premise of an arrest. There's been an actual arrest. You got to pull it. And, you know, I was talking about this earlier, that damn, Andrade just got the worst luck, because who was going to fight in that show?
Oh, shit, I didn't even think about that, yo. Shit. Oh, man.
I was like, yo, dog, you went over there and now, look, shit all fucked up over there, bro.
It could be John Ryder right now, but here he is.
Man, you know, these are the breaks. That's all I can say.
It's crazy. Shout out to Nando Lamas with the 199 super chat. He says, will Showtime make Tank the new James Scott? Who knows? D-Style, talk me through this, man. This is crazy.
I mean, look, everyone's preaching, and it's true. Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, I'll let the government worry about that. I think I could have my opinion. I think this motherfucker did something. You know what I mean? And that's the way I see it. Because I'm not the one prosecuting him or locking him up, so I could have whatever opinion I want. And I think people need to understand that. And I can go by the circumstantial evidence if I want. And in my eyes, he's at a point where, to me, not to the law, we're not going to change how that works, obviously, but to me, he's guilty until he's proven innocent to me at this point. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'll ask any man right now, if that was your sister that made that 911 call, are you going to say, oh, I don't know, let's wait and see what the law says. Maybe he's innocent until proven guilty. No, I don't think so. Right? So there's a pattern with this guy. As I told Beeb on the phone earlier, I mean, if he did that to that woman in front of it's not like he did it in front of like two people. He did it in front of cameras and with a crowd of people. If that's what he did when people were watching, what does he do when people are not watching? Now that doesn't, necessarily mean he does worse, but more than likely, it means he does. That's what that means. And that's the point where I'm at right now with Tank Davis. Tank Davis spends all day on Twitter, starting beefs with everybody, accusing everybody of being mentally weak and making accusations all day, every day, right? So I can have an opinion about what he's doing, quite frankly. But this one, you can't delete this one. It's not like Twitter. You could just delete the tweet. You can't delete it. Like it's there. You can't delete the jail cell. You can't delete the fact that you're going to go to court. You can't delete any of that. You're going to have to face it, right? If he's innocent, then it'll come out that he's innocent, pretty much. But I don't think he is, quite frankly. And one more thing about Ali sack balls, okay? Look, I can't stand an obvious dude that's obviously just trying to keep access to a fighter, because that's what he's doing. Am I surprised that like half of his videos of the last 20 were like all about Tank Davis, having exclusive access to Tank Davis?
Dude, remember when Kobe died? Sorry, I got to bring that up. He re-released all his Kobe videos. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was just, I know what you're getting at. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. He's kind of shameless with it.
I mean, shit, but here's the shameless part was his post. It's one thing to say, hey, guys, hey, innocent until proven guilty. Okay, I get it. Cool. Let's let the facts come out. Okay, cool. No problem. But what was that last part? I don't hear a lot of people like, oh, it's like the athletes. It's going to fizzle out. You know what I mean? Like, that should follow up with, that should be first be said, unfortunately, like with a lot of these big athletes that have money and resources, it's going to fizzle out. They're going to take care of it. They're going to sweep it under the rug. Yeah. That's not a good thing, Ali. Okay, Ali? That's not a good thing. If this gets swept under the rug, it's not like, people are going to forget about it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I guess. But that's not a good thing, Ali said back. But that's what I got.
Well, real briefly, before I go to base, I mean, they don't just arrest you and put you in a jail cell without having a substantial amount of evidence against you. They just can't do that, right? They couldn't do it to Raleigh because it was he say, she say. But they actually have evidence, right? And 911 calls, I'm sure the person who called was hysterical, right? And was crying out for help. So you can't put that back in the bottle. There's no way to it's just not a good look. It's just not a good look.
It's pattern behavior now. I mean, I think the main thing that counts against him is what D-Style said, is what you said, and what Mike said. If you're willing to shake a woman in public, and which he did, we all saw that. What are you willing to do? Like, we all have common sense, and I do agree with D-Styles. As far as I'm concerned, he's a woman beater. As far as I'm concerned, I have a very low opinion of him. And like, he's guilty to me. Like, you're just guilty. Like, bruh, if you're willing to do that with thousands of people around you that you can't control yourself, what would you do when ain't nobody around? You can say whatever the fuck you want to say. All this shit is not happening by accident, bruh. That pregnant lady that you left in that car, that's not by accident, bruh. Like, all this shit, we gonna believe that, yeah, you just got the worst motherfucking luck in the whole of Baltimore or whatever. Like, nobody believe that shit, bruh. You one of these guys that you comfortable doing that shit because your fucking parents failed. If it was your mother that raised you, or I don't know who raised you, bro, but they fucking failed and you a piece of shit, and I don't have no pity for you. I hope you do get locked up, and I hope you don't get out. I hope your career's over. Go away, bro. You ain't no role model. You not nobody, and your career sucked anyway.
Yeah. Can I just add one thing real quick?
Of course.
One of my chief sparring partners that I train with here in Atlanta is an Atlanta City police officer. And we talk about things that he can't discuss details, but we talk about things he sees on the job a lot. And when it was the previous domestic violence situation with Tank and some other athletes, I talked to him about that. And he said, when there is an arrest, they get domestic violence complaints daily. They get a lot. And the majority of the time, there's not an arrest made. It's basically, hey, everybody cool off. You go over here, you go over there. If there's an arrest made, there is at least legitimate circumstantial evidence that something took place, whether it be scarring, a bruise, something broken in the house where they can see that there's a struggle if it took place at the house. So the fact that he was arrested, I think, does say a lot when the majority of domestic violence calls don't lead to an arrest. I also want to address one guy in the comment section who's going after me. Listen, man, I'm going to put it here on record. In 2013, I made a rape joke on a post that I made, trying to be silly and joking, like shock jock kind of humor. Comedians say some crazy shit. The post that I said making a joke about rape, I deleted it. I don't stand by it. That is not the same as physically putting your hands on a woman and being arrested for it. So the fact that this guy in the comment section is trying to make those things equivalent, I mean, that just shows how ignorant you are, bro.
The whataboutism defense does not work because essentially you're only bringing that up in defense of Gervonta Davis.
No, and as a guy who is now married and a father of a young daughter who's only 2 months old, it's obviously deplorable that I even made a joke like that. That's why I don't stand by it. That's why I deleted those posts. But for people out there, and this isn't about me, I'm going to shut up, I promise. But I see this guy in the comment section trying to go there. For people to try to make that equivalent to actually physically abusing a woman, which is disgusting, itself. So that's even worse than making a joke. So anyway, I just want to put that out there. If somebody's being arrested, there is evidence that something took place, something legitimate, and that's some metaphysical shit on Twitter.
Yeah, you don't get locked up for making jokes.
Exactly. Well, Mike people want you to these days, but
yeah, and Mike wasn't locked up for his joke, and he took ownership for his joke. He took the tweet down. Tank Davis is not taking ownership for anything, man.
Thank you.
Know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Base, the floor is yours, man.
I mean, they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but he's trying to take this new modern day Mike Tyson thing to the next level. Yeah, it's mad. I mean, look, I think Jules said it the best. Like, no one outside of, I guess, that little cluster of fans he's got really cares about his career. He's not fighting anybody. So if this is the case and he is guilty, then yes, be guilty and go away. Like, you won't be missed like Mike was. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that I read it before he deleted. I don't know. I think you guys said that he deleted it. He wrote like a whole thing, bro. Fucking 1,000 words. And I was like, bro, ain't nobody trying to hear this bullshit, bro. Because this shit don't just be happening, bro. Like, this shit don't just be happening to people, bro. You comfortable doing that bullshit, and it's established. Like, we've seen it, and I hope they throw the book at his little fat ass, because I don't like him anyway.
They say only weighed 140 when he got it. He's almost on weight, bro. That's pretty good. He's got 10 days out, 140. That's not bad.
Yeah. Shout out to Virgil Ortiz 2023 with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it. All right, hot minute, man. Give me a hot minute on this one.
All right. The first thing that comes to mind is the public relations term that perception is reality. That's like the main overarching concept. Perception is reality. And he obviously has a history of this kind of behavior. So unfortunately, that really doesn't leave him much as far as his, the words he put out in that weird jumbled essay that was poorly written. I mean, he had the history of snatching up his girl. He has the car accident. He's out on bail right now. He gets in an incident last night. The audio is out where the girl is screaming, he's going to kill me. And that definitely ain't a good look. Stefan Espinosa and Showtime and them, perception is reality at this point. And the perception is that Gervonta is out here beating on chicks. That has yet to be established in court, because now he has another case he has to deal with. But when you got an established pattern of behavior, it's really tough. And it's hard because now you have the fanboys out here and their absolute value systems and their absolute belief systems and the whataboutisms like Jewel mentioned. And like, we were railing on Sergey Kovalev. We already put Kubrat Pulev to the ringer. There's no exceptions in this journalism thing. If you're arguably one of the biggest faces of the sport and you get involved in something like this, that's going to be journalism fodder for the rest of us. So naturally we have to speak on it, because you'd have to be a damn fool to not speak on this issue. But it's all bad. And Showtime, just for the sake of perception is reality, I think they have to pull the plug on that fight, because it's not going to be a good look. What is that message sending to all the women out there, all the daughters, all the moms? Like, hey, who cares as long as he entertains? Like, no. We have to like think a little higher with the way we view the world and we take in our entertainment, despite the fact that at its core boxing is violence. But we have to put, protecting women a priority as just an organized society. But yeah, Tank fucked up. He fucked up. And I don't know what it's all bad. Like, I'm not a legal expert, but I'm sure the ramifications of this, it's just so bad. Like, good luck to the kid.
Upon case, bro. Like, he already had 2 open cases, bro.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's bad. So,
and remember, he's fighting Ryan Garcia in April, according to sources. It's happening. It's happening.
It's not happening, bro.
I never thought that fight was going to happen.
Me neither. Me neither.
They got their clicks. That's all that was.
Yeah, and here's the thing, man. Showtime's got to cut this guy loose. If they don't, they are going to look like the biggest hypocrites. They're going to look horrible. And it's just going to be a PR nightmare. They got to cut him loose. This guy's got to do some type of jail time. And if you're any network, you drop this guy like a hot potato because he's not worth it. He's got too much baggage, bro. He's 28 years old. He's got too much baggage. He's not worth the aggravation. It's just not worth the aggravation, in my opinion.
I thought he was already looking at jail time before this incident. The
Yeah,
judge already said they're not
much,
letting
man.
him do house arrest. So it's like, oh.
Yeah, the goddamn car accident, man. Like that whole, I think they said there's 14 felony counts in association with that one. I'm like, man, he got to do at least a little bit of jail time off of that. Like,
there is absolutely no way this man walks away from this unscathed, man. There's just no effing way. He's going to jail.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'm going to end it on this one. The thing that did it for me was when that woman in that car was crying and she was screaming out in pain, help me, help me, help me. This motherfucker looked her in the eyes, right? And just turned away and just jetted out of there.
I mean, I've been saying, look, he's a piece of shit, man. Like, I'm sorry to say that. It's some motherfuckers like, look, man.
That is disgusting.
Your mommy, whoever the fuck raised you, they fucking failed, yo. You're a piece of shit. Society don't need you, bro. Go somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go somewhere for real. You a sack of shit. You're going to leave a pregnant woman in the car. You're going to smack up. You're going to shake a woman in public. Look, to me, you hit that girl, bro. It's simple as that. Like, I don't believe shit you say, bro. And I don't even understand most of the shit you say because you sound retarded.
A man should never put his hands on a woman or do anything that is non-consensual with a woman, period. End of. There are zero exceptions.
Yes.
It is binary. You do not do it, period. That's it.
Yep. Okay. We got
Yeah, you go punch the wall, bro. You get mad, break your hand on the wall.
Go to the boxing gym and punch the fucking heavy bag. That's what it's there for.
Yeah,
right. That's right. So we got some more crazy news because the hits just keep coming, man. Jermell Charlo, Tszyu, Jermell Charlo. Hand injury, broke his hand. Fights supposedly postponed. No new date has been announced, right? Big question here that I have is, how is this going to affect both fighters? Is this fight going to be rescheduled? Do you guys have any different thoughts on who's going to win this fight now based off of this hand injury, this layoff that's going to happen between both guys? I think Tszyu is going to probably get a replacement opponent. But, now the WBO is asking for some type of medical certification. They're asking for a doctor's report. They're asking for a timeline on how long he's going to be out. They want to know what type of therapy he's going to be doing. Pretty soon they're going to be asking for an insurance card. But I have no problem with that because I've always said when a guy gets injured, I have no problem with that because I've always said, when these guys get injured, just like me, if I'm gonna go out on FMLA at work, I have to go to Human Resources, get the FMLA paperwork, go to the doctor that's going to perform the surgery or whatever it needs to be done. That I'm going to be out for a long time. He's got to fill it out. He's got to tell him how long I'm going to be out, and I got to return it back to my job, and I got to square things away. So when I'm going to be out, when I'm injured, I got to square things away. Now, obviously, I'm not a professional boxer. I'm not trying to put myself on that level, but there's millions of dollars on the line. There's guys who are doing training camps. There's guys that are in that training camp getting paid. So for a fighter to just say I'm injured and not have to do anything, right? Or for a fighter to say I just got mental health problems and not have to present some type of medical evaluation, not have any type of diagnosis. I mean, it never sat well with me. So shout out to the WBO for stepping up and requiring this information. Shout out to them because I've been saying this, and D-Style knows I've been saying this for years, that these guys should have to provide proof of their injury, right? They need to give us present MRIs and X-rays or what have you. Get some type of a medical documentation with notes and then just having a diagnosis there from a doctor, not just being able to say I got this, I got that. That's bullshit. Hopefully those days are over. But I'm gonna go to you, D-Style. I know I put a lot out there. What do you think of all this? And is this fight even going to happen? Do you think?
Let me start off by saying this. I actually believe Jermell. Like I really don't have any reason to not believe him. I just want to say that. He's been the opposite of his brother. Like he's fought everybody. I mean, he's fought the who's who in the division. Now, granted, a lot of it's circumstantial. A lot of those fighters were available in PBC, but nonetheless, he fought them, right? We've seen situations where fighters are in PBC and they don't fight each other. Like, so it is what it is. So he still got it done. Shout out to him. And then, and he's shown that he's a guy that you could lose, and guess what? You could come back. You could win the rematch. You can make adjustments, and fans will still support you and all that. I think he's a fighting champion. The degree, I have no clue, but I know there's a hand injury. That I could say. What degree? Who fucking knows, right? But with that said, I do think it should just be standard protocol that proof needs to be shown. It's just that way no one gets accused of accusing and not believing and, you don't believe him or what? And nobody gets defensive. That's just the protocol, and that should be the protocol all the time, right? You should be able to present. Just like if I got sick at work and I say, hey, I got to miss 30 days. They're going to be like, wow, you got to miss 30 days? Well, what happened? Right? I'm going to need a doctor's note. To get FMLA, I'm going to need some paperwork. They're not just going to give it to me and just take my word. And if I say, well, you don't believe me or what? Like, they're going to say it's irrelevant if I believe you. We need the paperwork, right? So at the end of the day, that just needs to be protocol. As far as Tim Tszyu, look, I mean, I believe he's going to take he's going to take another fight, we know, but I don't think he's going to fight a killer when he has the title shot right in front of him, right? They're going to postpone the fight. So people are like, oh, he should fight Fondura. Like, you think he's going to fight Fondura when he's got a title shot right there already? I mean, I'm not against it either, by the way. If he does that, hey, great. All right, if he fights Harrison, cool. I'm not against it or nothing. Don't get me wrong, but realistically, I think it's safe to say he's going to fight someone. He's going to be probably a 4 to 6 to 1 favorite against, and then we're going to get the fight later on in the year, and that's what I got to say.
Got you. Hot boxing. What are your thoughts on this? How do you think this whole thing is going to play out?
Well, I believe Jermell Charlo injured his hand. As far as evidence, money can buy anything, including doctors signing off on documentation. So that's just a minor formality, I think. I don't see what he has to benefit by faking an injury, unless you want to go real conspiracy theorist, left-wing nut and say, he's cycling out, whatever the fuck. Some people will go on that tangent, but I take his word for it only because his body of work leading up to this point has established that he's a person that does it. He doesn't take the shortcuts. He fights who he's supposed to fight. He's the undisputed champion. He had arguably one of the hardest paths to undisputed of any of the undisputed champions currently in the game. And I don't know what Tim Tszyu's option is. They both have been inactive for relatively about the same amount of time. I think Tim Tszyu's last fight was last March, and Jermell's fight was a couple months afterwards. I guess Tim Tszyu, if he was smart, he would take a keep busy fight. Obviously not against a killer that could potentially take him out the rankings. There's a lot of guys hovering around his range in the rankings that would pose a possible threat to his opportunity at a title fight. But it'd be smart for him to stay sharp while he lets Jermell accumulate rust for the point when they do actually get back into the ring together. And that would give him at least some kind of advantage. I still, in the end, don't see him beating Jermell, but I've seen people out there who are adamant that Tim Tszyu can pull it off, but I've seen him get dropped twice. So yeah, I don't know, but I side with Jermell on that one.
Gotcha. Base, what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think that Charlo's going to be out for a while, and do you think this fight's going to happen this year?
Well, the note said 2 months, right? So realistically, we're looking back end of February, start of March. Then you have to go into a camp. So the earliest he might be back in the ring is around May, June time. If Tim Tszyu fights in January, then I think he'll be in a much better position, especially if the fight happens like immediately with no warm up for Charlo, just because he might then be a bit cautious to throw that right hand. And if he's cautious to throw it, then it was the left hand, wasn't it? Sorry, it was the left hand.
Mm-hmm. It was the left.
Yeah, he might be a bit more cautious to throw it, which means he might not lay it off in certain situations, which would give Tim a better advantage. But the fight aging on and taking longer to happen benefits Jermell a lot more than it benefits Tim, because Jermell and the whole PBC gang are used to not fighting actively. Like they're conditioned for that. Whereas Tim Tszyu, he is noticeably poor when he's not fighting 2, 3, or 4 times a year. Like his rhythm and everything just goes out the window. We saw it against Gaucher in March. So yeah, the longer it takes without him getting in the ring, then that's better for Jermell. But if he can get us keep busy, then that might actually benefit him slightly. I still think Jermell is a massive, overwhelming favorite. But again, I always say big up to Tim for taking the challenge, taking the step up. But the worst thing he done was to sign for the PBC, allegedly. I don't know if he's actually fully signed, but he would have been better off just fighting whoever he's fighting and then just pushing a mandatory and getting that centre purse bid and letting one of the other broadcasters purchase it. That way, whatever happens here wouldn't be an issue.
Got you. Ring, PBC, this always happens. What's going on with this?
I don't believe they're going to fight. It doesn't make any sense. I'll say this, and I said this 100 times on my own channel. I don't think Charlo is ducking Tim. I don't think that. I picked Charlo to beat Tim, so I don't think he's ducking. The injury, whether it's real or not, is kind of besides the point, because 2 months of the cast plus a couple of weeks of rehabilitation, that would put the fight. And bear in mind that Tim may take an interim. If he takes an interim in January, he may not get right back in there in like a May or a June or whatever. And then, what's going on with Charlo, what's going on with Tim, being honest, I don't think they're going to fight. I think Jermell is on his way up to 160 pounds. I think Errol's on his way up to 154. I think Maul is on his way up to 168. I think that we have seen the last of Jermell Charlo as a junior middleweight. For one, PBC fighters, look at what his schedule was this year. He fought once. So what? He's going to come back? No, I think he's probably going to end up fighting Carlos Adames for the WBC. His brother will move up, at which point they'll try to make the Andrade fight, because that's one of the few good fights that they can make, that instead of fighting big-ass Benavidez, he can fight Andrade, who's a middleweight who moved up in weight the same way he did. And I just think that they're cycling their guys, that the 147s are going to go up to 54, and the 154s are going to go to 60, and the 60s are going to go up to 68. And that's what I think it is. I don't feel that he's afraid of Tim Tszyu, but I don't really believe the injury, being honest. I don't really believe it. Like Hotboxing said, which is what I think, you can buy a doctor's note. If you have enough money, you can buy the documentation to show the WBO. You can do that. That's showing them something doesn't mean anything. When I look at it, there's a lot going on that makes me feel the injury is not real. Not exclusive to what I just said. For starters, Fox is said to be leaving the sport this year. That means that those fighters that were fighting on Fox will be migrating over to Showtime. That means that those fighters will be taking up a sizable portion of the budget. Fighters like Errol Spence, who's been fighting on Fox. Fighters like Deontay Wilder, who's been fighting on Fox. If Fox really is leaving this year, they're going back to Showtime, and Showtime has to pay for the Ruiz fight. Showtime has to pay for the Thurman fight. So these smaller fights, they get put on the back burner. That's what I really think is going on. I don't think it's an according to Hoyle duck, but I don't think the injury is real either. That's how I feel about it. I don't think the fight's going to get rescheduled. I think that Tim Tszyu may see himself become WBO champion. Maybe he fights Tony Harrison. That's a 50-50 fight. It's a good fight. I like that fight. If he can make it past him, I see Tim Tszyu becoming a champion. But he won't fight Jermell. I don't see that.
So you think the PBC has Dr. Lipschitz in their back pocket right now, right?
How easy? Really, if you tell a guy, hey, look, I'll give you $10,000 right now to give me some x-rays, you think he's not going to do it? He's going to do it.
I was suspecting that he was going to move up to 160 as well. I for some reason, I just think there's been, like you said, the budgets, there's going to be some issues with the budget. That's number one. Number two, there's bigger fights from up at 160 anyways. When these guys become undisputed, they don't stay undisputed long. They usually they either move up or they vacate some of the titles.
And I'm not mad about it either, because Adames is in position. He's WBC interim champion. I love the idea of Adames versus Jermell Charlo. That's a great fight. I think they'll make it. When it comes to Maul, I don't got no time for Jermell. I just don't like whatever, bro.
Yeah,
Just
he's
whatever,
frustrated.
bro. Whatever. I heard it on good authority. The Sulietzky fight has been rescheduled. It could end up being at 168 pounds because he hasn't fought in a long time. Just off of that, it could end up being at 168 pounds. He hasn't fought all year. He's gonna make 160? Nah, bro. So I'm okay with it. I personally felt the Tszyu fight, as ambitious as he is, which I appreciate as a consumer, I felt it was too soon for that fight. You haven't fought the right people for this fight. You don't have the rounds in the bank for this fight. You know, you just don't have it. Even though I appreciate it, I'm not complaining, but I think Tim would have lost that fight if it did go through. You would have lost that fight. You probably would have got knocked out. So it's a blessing in disguise for Tim. And I like Mel. I don't like Maul. I like Mel. He's had a fun career. I've loved the whole run at 154. I wish he has more success at 160 because he's not his brother. He's Jermell Charlo. He's not his brother. He fights people, and that's what I see.
Mike, do you agree with any of Julius's points? Because he made some great points.
Yeah, honestly, all you guys made great points. There's so much to cover on this, man. You guys made some outstanding points. First of all, with the WBO, I love that. It's true. Hot boxing, you're totally right. I mean, they can just pay a guy, get a note, and it's over email. It's not like they're having a doctor's consultation in person or something, or even a conference call. It's literally just an email document. You take a picture with your phone and you email it to them. That's the proof that the WBO wants, right? So that's easy. But I still like that they're doing it. I know this. If I was a promoter, a network executive, and I had a fighter signed exclusively to fight on my platform, I would want evidence of an injury. I would want evidence, even if you claim the mental health thing. I want to see a doctor's note saying that you've been, getting psychiatric treatment and you've been prescribed, medication, whatever it is. I'd want to see that. So I understand that aspect of it. As far as the injury being real or not, I'll take him at his word. I will say this. The whole timing of this entire thing has been weird. You kind of announce a fight that's going to take place at some point next year, date, venue to be announced. Then you announce the official date and venue, really, really close to it. Then a month out, you hurt your hand in sparring, deep in camp. I can understand hurting your hand in sparring early in camp when maybe you're not in the best shape or something like that. But deep in camp when you're supposed to be kind of hitting it real good, I don't know, dude. Breaking your hand in two places, the timing seems weird. But I'll take him at his word. To Jules' point, though, if there's a track record at PBC, and if you look at the way they're trying to build things out, Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, those guys are coming up at 47. Guys like Errol Spence and Bud Crawford, who probably will be a PBC guy at some point, right? At least, for a fight or two, they're not going to fight those guys. They're going to move up to 54. There's guys coming up at 54 like Fundora, and Mel ain't going to fight him. They're going to move him up to 60 and so on. And that's the way that they're doing business over there. I understand it, but the way that it traditionally works in boxing is the young guys fight the old guys and you pass that torch. They don't do torch passing over there. So I can see a situation, like I hope the fight gets rescheduled and we get Charlo and Tszyu because it's an interesting fight, particularly if Tszyu can get maybe an interim title fight, maybe the WBO interim or something like that against a Tony Harrison. It's a close fight, but I would shade that 60-40 for Tszyu because Tony Harrison's a front runner. He tends to fade late in fights. I think he may drop Tszyu early in that fight and be up after 5 rounds, but fade down the stretch. And I think Tszyu would learn a lot in that fight, and it would prepare him better for Charlo. I still favor Charlo in the matchup, but I think that helped prepare him more. But I hope we get that fight, but I can see to Ring's point that we may never get it. And Tszyu basically gets an interim belt and then gets bumped up or something like that. The whole division blows up. Fundora gets a belt. Basically, the same thing is going to happen at 47. Mm-hmm. It's happening already at 140, right? It's what happens when you get undisputed. It's eventually going to happen at 68.
And it has to. Errol's not going to fight fucking Ennis, bro. We all know that.
No, I don't think Bud will. I think Bud would fight him before Errol, but I don't think Bud's going to do it either, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm with the shit. Look, the fight that I want is Crawford versus Virgil Ortiz. That's the super fight for me. 2023 to 2024. That's the super fight for me. The Arrow shit, I've been saying it for 4 fucking years. They ain't gonna fight. Motherfuckers know. I've been saying that. They ain't gonna fight, bro. All these promises and shit, get the fuck out of here, bro. They ain't gonna fight.
Yeah, that's true. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. Well, we have some good news because Arum came out recently during an interview. I think it was with Fight Hub, and he said that Devin Haney's next fight will be against Lomachenko. They're working on a date, and they're looking to probably get this done. Somewhere around May. They're saying looking for a date and a venue, but it looks like it's going to get done somewhere around the springtime. Big question that I have, though, is Lomanchenko is going to turn 35 in February. He's got some wear and tear on him. Still has the shoulder. I mean, the shoulder has had surgery on it twice. I still question if that's 100%. So is Devin Haney going to get the best version of Lomanchenko? And, is he getting them at the right time if they do end up fighting in May? I'll start with you, Base. What are your thoughts on this news from Arum?
Well, the news itself, I mean, I think it's what everyone was expecting, so good for that. In terms of, okay, is Devin getting Lomachenko at the right time? Quite possibly. I mean, yeah, 35 is not a spring chicken. You're on the back end of your prime. You're definitely on the decline. Loads of injuries, wear and tear. What was it? 397 amateur fights or whatever it was. So, yes, that all makes sense. But then on the flip side, you can also say maybe Loma's getting Devin at the right time, because if it's in May or thereabouts, bearing in mind that Devin is now a practicing Muslim and you have Ramadan between the 20th of March and the 20th of April, if he's going to be practicing, that means that in that period of time, he's either not going to be eating during the day, depleting his body as he's already had to do to make the weight, and he's gonna be going longer and longer throughout a cycle where it's visibly a lot harder for him to get down to 135. And yes, he had more than enough to deal with Kambosos in the rematch, but that's just because he's just levels above Kambosos technically and like in terms of his skill set and his IQ. Cool, and he had a lot of different advantages that Kambosos won't implement the same type of things that Lomachenko will. When you now have to sort of keep focused and keep those gears high and sharp throughout an entire period of time while you are so depleted, when everyone's questioning your chin. I don't question the chin personally, because again, out of all of these guys, he's the only one that's never hit the canvas. So yeah, he might not react the greatest to a shot, but to me, that's just part and parcel of the game, innit? But yeah, I've always maintained, if you can't have that fight before Ramadan when you wanted it, I'd get rid of those belts, move up to 140 and say, Bob, give me my fight up here or set me out of the contract, because I've always been an advocate of health over, because at the end of the day, he's not starving for money and he's got massive paydays coming no matter what he does next. I want the Loma fight. I've always wanted him to have that fight, but I don't want it at the physical discernment to him and his health, because again, we all remember those harrowing pictures from Australia on the scales, and he hasn't looked that much better in previous ones, but that was obviously just the worst. But as a growing guy, constantly shrinking back down to that size is to me, it's scary. I don't really want to see it again. So if he does it, and I believe he will, I think he's got just enough to get it to sort of come through that test. But I also feel like it would be a much harder fight for him than maybe it would have been, a year ago, or, when he was a bit more comfortable, or even 18 months ago, he may not have been as knowledgeable, but he would have just had more energy and more youthful exuberance. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I feel like it benefits both people in different ways. It's just about, I guess, who's got the most visible drain or wear and tear on the night.
When does Ramadan start? Does that start in February?
No, 20th of March to the 20th of April.
24th of March to 24th of April? Okay.
20th, 0.
Oh, I'm sorry, 20th? Okay, thank you. Hot boxing, is he aging Loma out here? What do you think?
I don't think he's aging Loma out purposely. I think Loma's just aged himself out because he started his professional career late. He had that deep amateur career, and they don't start their careers till late. And Lomachenko's style is kind of predicated on his footwork and his athleticism. And at 35, you're on the back end, you're long in the tooth, I'd say at that point. I'm not sure still what I saw in that Jermaine Ortiz fight, whether that was ring rust or that was age, because he did seem to ramp up towards the latter end of that fight once Jermaine Ortiz started to fade a little bit. But regardless, I think when push comes to shove, Devin's just too big, too long, too young. He's just a bigger unit. He's got like 5 or 6 inches of reach. He's got one of the best jabs in the game. He can keep Lomachenko at the end of that and just make it a real ugly 12-round unanimous decision fight or split decision fight. But I don't see what Lomachenko can really do at this point in the game in the lightweight division, because he was already an undersized lightweight to begin with. As far as the Ramadan thing, has it already been established that Lomachenko's side will not fight before Ramadan? Is that how I understand it? Or
I think it was Bob just saying the dates, the way they just looking at it for May. I think Loma.
They don't want to clash with March Madness. That's what Bob said. He doesn't want to clash. He doesn't want the fight to clash with March Madness, the college basketball stuff.
Yeah.
So he said April, but if it's April because of Ramadan, it must be the end, either the end of April or the beginning of May, because obviously if Devin's going to be observing Ramadan, he can't come back at the beginning of April. It would have to
train him. You can't train during Ramadan. That's
exactly. It's not gonna. It's probably gonna be May. It's probably gonna be May.
Either way, I definitely heavily favor Devin Haney, and I would be very surprised if Lomachenko pulled it off at 35 years old against a young stud like that. I'm high on Devin Haney, I'll admit that. I don't see Lomachenko beating him.
I'm high on Devin, but I don't see what he does that Lomachenko can't work around. Devin's money punches his jab. Loma's a southpaw. He's going to move right, stay on the outside of that jab. When he shifts, you'll turn with him, and when you turn, pop left hand. Plus the left hand.
Got a point. He could shut out. He could shut down that jab. If he shuts down that jab, you got to fight.
I just feel like, look, this is my thing. If Devin loses, I'm still a fan of Devin. I don't really care. I don't have a horse in that race. I love the fight. If Devin loses, he's not a hype job. He fought the guy that I wanted him to fight for 4 fucking years. Same with Loma. If he loses, it's not a hype job. I wanted to see this fight for 4 fucking years, and they gave me the fight. They found a way. My main thing is, I just don't like hearing that, is Devin getting him at the right time? No, they both have drawbacks. Devin is killing himself to make 135, but Lomachenko will be 35. So to me, they're here. They're on even terrain. They both have drawbacks. So it all just boils down to styles. Now, I saw way past it Jorge Linares really hurt Devin off a right hand. And it's like, by now, I think everybody at 135 knows that Linares has a great right hand. He's going to land it. Like, it's not a question of whether or not he's going to land it. He's going to land that punch. He landed it on Lomachenko and sat him on his back pocket. So he's going to land that punch. And I'm just like, look, if Linares can touch you with that shot, you're fighting out of the orthodox stance. So is he. You didn't defend against it. It still landed. Then Lomachenko can land that straight left. I wonder, what are you going to do about the volume? Because this is not Jojo Diaz. This is not Jorge Linares. This guy's different from anybody you fought. And what I see that Devin has is, okay, you're taller, you're longer, you got a good jab. All those things can be worked around. And you have been touched before by lesser fighters than this guy. This guy doesn't just have good hands. He has good feet. And even if he's not what he was, a couple of years ago, none of us are, this is still a really good fucking fight, dog. Like, to me, this is a great fucking fight. If it was on pay-per-view, I'd buy it. That's how good it is. So I don't, if he's drained, you assume the responsibilities of what happens once you step in the ring. Same applies to Loma, which is, why I don't make excuses about the shoulder. Even though I do think the shoulder was injured, it's not an excuse. You chose to fight. It's not an excuse. So to me, it's a great fight. I love the fucking fight. I don't think Loma's too old to pull out the victory because I think he got the perfect preparation with Jermaine Ortiz. Jermaine is actually bigger than Devin, and he's more physical than Devin. On the inside, he's not going to tie up. He's going to punch. So the fact that he was able to deal with him and eke it out off a layoff, I'm like, no, he's ready. He's ready. That's what he needed. He didn't need a soft touch. He didn't need to go in there and kill a guy in the first 6. You needed to go in there with a guy that's going to give you some rounds and make you work. So when you go in there with Devin, who doesn't really have a lot of inside game, it'll be a little bit easier for you because he doesn't have inside game. Devin is at his best, long distance, behind the jab, sticking and moving, staying on the outside and maintaining the distance. He's not going to switch stances like Jermaine Ortiz. He might turn with you and keep pumping out that jab, but you're a southpaw. You can get on the outside of that jab. The whole fight, the trial for Devin is Loma's trying to get on the outside of that jab, and that's going to be the whole fight because he's a southpaw. The whole fight he's trying to get on the outside of that jab, so you got to keep turning with him and turning with him and turning with him. And how does that wear on the gas tank of a fighter who may have overstayed his welcome as a lightweight? At the same time, how does that wear on a fighter who's 35? I love this fucking fight, dog. That's just me. I love the fight.
I got to give you the other side of the coin, Ring. But you made some good points, but I got to give you the other side of the coin. We did see Lomachenko have some problems with Teofimo Lopez's jab. And you could argue that, well, I will argue that Devin Haney has a better jab than Teofimo Lopez.
I agree.
And he could not get past Teofimo Lopez's jab. But, you could, I don't know if you could factor the shoulder in that. But for all time,
the power. He had to be wary of the counter. That kid can punch, at least at 35.
Yeah.
Devin ain't gonna punch him, man. Not a punch.
I think Devin hits hard enough to get guys' attention. I do believe that. And I also, another thing too is I don't think Lomachenko's ever fought anybody with Devin Haney's foot speed and hand speed. This could be
Ortiz, bro. I'm telling.
I don't think he's faster. I don't think he's faster than Devin. I just don't.
Not faster, but I'm just going to say this. With Teofimo, you have to be wary of the counter. You can't commit. You cannot commit to your punches. You have to be wary of the counter. So even though I don't think Teofimo has a better jab than Devin at all, Devin's jab is there's nothing wrong with it at all. Whereas Teofimo's, he's just putting it out there. It's nothing major, and he's really just trying to set up the right hand. He's really just trying to set up the counter, walk you into that punch. Devin commits to his jab. He gets the whole arm out there, and I could see
full extension.
Yeah, and I could see him getting under or around it or to the side of it, and you punch him in the chest, bring over some other shit. Like, this is a beautiful fight, man. Beautiful fight.
Last point before I pass it to D-Style is one other thing I do like that Devin does is he doesn't fight you on the inside, but he knows how to nullify you on the inside. People criticize him for the holding, but when he holds you, he is walking you back, mauling you, maneuvering you, forcing you to shuffle your feet backward. And he can get physical with guys. When he wrapped up Kambosos, he was kind of throwing him around, pushing him back, and then he would release the clinch and punch off the clinch. He's a pretty physically strong guy on the inside when he does wrap you up like that. Andre Ward used to do that too. He would grab you, walk you back, and then he would turn you, line you up for a shot, release you, and then punch off the clinch. I could see him doing that to Lomanchenko, and Lomachenko is more of a mid-range guy. He's not going to go deep in the pocket. He's a mid-range guy.
That is true. That is true.
So this is a great fight. This is a great fight.
I don't care who wins, man. I just want to. I don't care who wins. It's everything I want to see in a fight is there. I don't know who wins, bro. I just want to see the fight.
Yeah. D, what do you think, man? I mean, is he going to get him at the right time, or does it even matter? Is this still going to be a 50-50 fight, regardless of what we just said? You're muted, sir.
Apologize.
There you go.
I keep hearing Loma's old. Wear and tear, the long amateur career. Look, but I've also heard over the years, which I was right in line with, Loma's a great fighter. Loma's an all-time great. If Loma's those things, he should be fighting at age 35. He should be able to beat Devin Haney. That's what I'll say. If he is those things. And this is his opportunity to prove that, right? Not to prove he's proven he's a great fighter. I'm talking about like all-time great status. Like if you're there and there's nothing wrong if you're not, you should be able to win this fight. You should be able to do fine at age 35. Okay, yes, you have wear and tear. Guess what? All fighters get wear and tear, right? But age 35, not 40, not 45, 35. All right. And a short pro career, we're honest. And in most of those fights, you dominated. Right. So it's not like he's been in all these wars and, oh my God. And yes, there is the amateur career, but it is what it is. I mean, that he decided to stay in the amateurs that long. That was his decision. It is what it is. Devin Haney, to me, he's a good fighter. I give him credit. Okay. But I just didn't like. The Kambosos win doesn't do it for me. All right. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I call it the golden mirage. You put a bunch of titles on the line and people overgas the win. They make it more than what it really was. If Kambosos never fought for the belts, and let's just say after his, let's just say he fought Haney instead. Like instead of Linares, he fought Kambosos. And he beat Kambosos. Would anybody be jumping in glee and saying he should be a top 5 pound for pound and oh my God, put this guy on all the list and you better do it and all this it's the golden mirage. He did it for all the belts, so that's why it's over. People are overhyping it more than what it is. Now I'm not taking away the accomplishment. I'm not taking away what he accomplished, right? But this is boxing, ladies and gentlemen. In boxing, the two that fight for the top belts aren't always the best. Just the way it is. Just like Ramirez wasn't top 2 at 140 when he fought Taylor. Everybody knew the top 2. Prograis was one of them. It is what it is. All I know is that I think the Loma fight is the perfect setting for Loma to prove his greatness. Right? Or not, I don't want to say prove because he's proven his great, but to prove he's an all-time great. Okay. Reinforce his greatness. To show he's still around. And it's an opportunity for Devin Haney to show he's the real deal. I'm sorry that the Kambosos fight just doesn't quite do it for me. Okay? All the stuff, all the smoke and mirrors people throw at me. Oh, come on. He's the guy that beat Teo and Teo beat Loma. Okay, if you want to go by that, go by that. Okay, it's cool with me. Whatever. But I know, all right, what I've seen. And I know that Kambosos, more often than not, he's been the guy that didn't fight Teo, right? That, you know what I mean? The guy that fought like Lunding and shit, all right? He's the guy that fought Lee Selby, okay? That's who Kambosos is. I know who I've seen. I know who he is. And all I know is he's a very beatable fighter. And in my opinion, the night he fought Teofimo Lopez, the stars aligned perfectly for him. I honestly believe that. Okay, people could cry and, oh, no, like, sometimes that shit happens, right? And it happened that night.
That's true.
We also said this before, right, D-Style, that they could have fought 10 times and Teo probably would have beat him 9, right?
Yes.
Kambosos, that's true.
If there were a rematch, I would have picked Teo, man. I just think he fought the very worst version of Teofimo Lopez you could find.
I mean, he had a broken esophagus. You can't let the mountain punch you in the face, punch you in the chest like that, bro.
Yeah, like, bro.
You can't let that happen, right, Mike? I mean, you're not letting 330-pound guys punch you in the chest before you get ready to spar.
Who would do that with a major fight like that?
How stupid was that?
You guys all make great points again, and that's why this is a great fight because, and I do think it happens. I think we get Lomachenko, Haney. And one thing we haven't discussed is Top Rank's position here because they are set up so well in this division going into 140, and you can't go wrong either way, right? So if Haney wins, you end up getting Haney-Stevenson, which is a great matchup. If Loma wins, you get Loma-Stevenson. So they're set up very well. I understand that Haney has to cut down to 135, and that's very, very difficult. He has a lot of means to do that and make it happen. I fully expect him to make 135 for that fight and be healthy. He may not look great at the weigh-in. That's because he's making an unnatural weight. If this were the 1950s, Devin Haney would be a welterweight. I mean, let's be honest. If he was weighing in on the same day. Yeah. So he's making a very unnatural weight, but he's young enough where he can pull it off. And I expect him to be healthy at 135 and make that weight easily. For Lomachenko, here's the thing. It's not making excuses. It's just naming facts, okay? This is going to bother some people, what I'm about to say. The dude is a featherweight fighting at lightweight. That's the truth. He is 35 years old. He had hundreds of amateur fights, okay? Yes, he is clearly past his best. If you watched him in the Olympics, if you watched him against Gary Russell Jr., I was fucking ringside for those fights, okay? He's not the same guy. The feet, the angles, it's not the same. I expect Devin Haney to win that fight and win it fairly clearly. Seriously. On paper, that's what should happen. I will give Devin Haney full credit, but that's what should happen when you look at all the intangibles of where these guys are at and the reality of their size. I saw somebody in the chat bring up Bernard Hopkins' age when he fought Tito Trinidad. Where did B-Hop start his career? Exactly. Where did Tito start his career? Exactly. You guys leave out these very important factors here. You are having a guy that's basically a welterweight, and I'm not making excuses. Fighting a guy who could make featherweight right now if he really wanted to. That is the key factor here. Haney should win this fight, and he should win it like 117, 111. It should be fairly wide, in my opinion.
You're fucking crazy, man. No, you're fucking crazy.
Mike is one of the biggest Lomanchenko fans. If he's saying it,
Mike, just get ready, bro.
Mike voted for Lomachenko to be #1 pound for pound on that.
Actually, I never did.
You did, Mike?
No, I had.
Sure?
I've never had. Well, no. When he beat Linares, I did. When he beat Linares, I did. But I actually had Bud pound for pound number. There's another thing too. A lot of people say I wanted Golovkin number. I never thought Golovkin was #1 pound for pound.
I just want to say, I had Chocolatito, bro.
I had Chocolatito.
I just want to add to something you said, Mike. Just a slight disagreement. Not totally, but here's my thing. Right? Not every fighter is where they started as a pro. Right? Like so. It's like Manny Pacquiao. We could say, well, Ugas. I mean, he beat a flyweight. I don't know if we want to kind of go there. Like, all I know is fighters have done more. Like I'm just speaking for myself. When I say Loma, if he is an all-time great, he should win this fight. Like when I say that, I'm comparing him to like the all-time greats. Like,
yeah, I'm not. I don't rate Lomachenko with Manny Pacquiao.
Bobby Choco, listen, Bobby Choco.
I don't think I do, but I don't. I don't rate him on that
level. Bobby Choco.
Mike is dropping knowledge right now. Mike is dropping knowledge.
But here's my thing. I agree.
However,
you're open to him proving you wrong, right? If he goes out there and he puts out a clinic against Devin Haney,
I would say that's really impressive, dude. If you look at his resume, I get it. Jermaine Ortiz, he's fought Richard Comey, he's fought Nakatani recently, but he has not fought a guy quite like Devin Haney in the package that he brings in a long time. So to do that at 35, like that would be really impressive. Would I put him pound for pound #1 or something for beating Haney? Absolutely fucking not. No. But you'd be in the top 10.
Dougie might though. I'm just kidding.
I just want to say this. I get that Devin is bigger, but you know what? Here's the thing. Linares was a 3-division champion, and that gets lost in the sauce. This is not a guy who started out as a lightweight. This is a guy who moved up. Correct. He moved up to lightweight.
But he carried that power with him up to lightweight, though.
But Lomachenko has power. How do I know? He knocked out Linares. Devin, did you knock out Linares?
To the body.
Is
he going to knock out Devin Haney to the body?
Devin,
he knocked out Nakatani.
Mike. Devin went 12 with Gamboa. Can we stop? Let's
all
stop.
Right.
He went 12 with Gamboa.
You think he's not going to show up more prepared for Loma than he would for Gamboa?
I think it's harder for Devin here today to make 135 than it was years ago. All right,
that's even with all the supplementation and help that he has, helping him make that weight.
We haven't seen the best Devin Haney.
I
agree with Beeb on that. I actually think Devin Haney's underrated.
Now that he's undisputed,
I think he's underrated.
Now that Devin Haney's undisputed, right? He's got all the money in the world. He's getting mega fit meals being shipped into his house right now. You don't have to worry about anything.
He was getting millions at Matchroom.
He's eating salmon. He's eating salmon with risotto right now, Rain. Salmon with risotto meals.
All I'm trying to say is Zaur Abdullayev was able to stop Linares.
Now look, sometimes guys look the part. Sometimes guys, I know, like okay, fine. Maybe we're rating the possible potential in Haney. All I know is this, okay? He might be the next Corey Spinks for all we know. Right, what's somebody land something clean on him, and not if he gets sparked out or he gets knocked out, we don't know. Corey Spinks looked the part before he got knocked out.
Listen, I'm with these styles. I think Devin's. I have a very high opinion of Devin Haney. I really do.
I've seen him get hurt. I think he wasn't reacting very well, and I don't think Jojo really get credit for the stuff he did in that ring.
Jojo's underrated.
I just want to say this stylistically. Devin does not have not based on styles, not based on size, or based on age, or based on youth. There he's got advantages, but based on styles, he doesn't have an advantage, bro. You go ahead.
I agree with that.
He
doesn't have that explosiveness that Tio has, and that kind of jerky athleticism, the twitch.
There's one good thing about Haney. One thing Haney's got going on right now, okay? He's not making peanuts like Duran and Ray Leonard did, according to him. Okay, I just want to throw it out there.
All I'm saying is I don't rule it out because styles really do make fights. They really do, and that's why a guy like Sandor Martin can make a Teofimo look the way that he did. You know, Teofimo's 1 and 2 punches at a time, and he's a counter puncher. If you have a defensively minded fighter that's not going to open up, he's not going to give you any opportunities, you're going to look bad. And I didn't realize that after the fight. I said it before the fight. Teofimo not going to look good in this motherfucking thing, man.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. So let's go around real quick. I'm picking Haney 9 rounds to 3. I agree with Mike.
Don't do this, Beeb. Don't do this. It's too
Hot Minute. Hot Minute. What do you got? Hot Minute? You said Haney, right?
Oh yeah, Haney 8 rounds to 4.
Base.
Yeah, I got Haney. I can't give her rounds. I think it'd be a bit closer than that.
Okay. Base 7-5. All right, D-Style. I'm just kidding, Base. D-Style, who do you got?
A controversial 7-5, Loma.
Wow, controversial. Okay. Ring, what do you got?
I'm just going to say this. I haven't decided yet, but I could see Loma stopping Devin. Y'all crazy. Y'all sound crazy to me. Like,
that'd be crazy.
I think you guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. You need to let me tell you one thing. You know how I arrived at that conclusion? Well, it's not a conclusion, but you know how I arrived at that assumption. The last couple of rounds in the Ortiz fight, who was fading? Not the 34-year-old.
He finished strong. We got to give Loma for finishing strong on that fight.
Mm-hmm.
But he edged it on my card. He just edged that fight on my card.
Yeah, because he was coming off a year layoff, Beeb. A year layoff, Beeb. There's no year layoff in between now and Devin.
Okay. Mike's got Devin too, right? 9-3.
Look, I could see either guy winning.
Mike,
in theory. I'm not. I won't go back. I promise you. I'm not going to flip flop.
Come on. I know. Ring's got a law degree, but don't let him convince you.
But what makes this so intriguing is that to D-Style's point, to Ring's point, that what they're saying, it could happen, and that's why it's such a great matchup. But
I can win the lottery, Mike. I can win the lottery, but I may not.
True that. 90% of the time, if you look at the way these kind of matchups go, what did we talk about earlier? Passing the torch, the young guy fighting the old guy. Usually, the young guy. Usually, Joshua beats Klitschko, right? Usually, that's what happens. And Klitschko is a great fighter. Maybe Joshua isn't, but when they fought, Joshua had enough juice to get over the hump. And I think that's what we're going to see here.
Mike, I think the passing of the torch fight that you're talking about is Lomanchenko passing the torch to Shakur Stevenson.
That's what Bob Arum wants. I can tell you, brother, that's what Bob Arum wants.
Bob can't lose here, can he?
Bob can't lose. Bob would love to see Loma and Stevenson, because Stevenson would dominate that fight. It'd be a real coming out party for him.
Absolutely. Now there I will agree with the panel, because I've maintained for a while now, Shakur Stevenson thoroughly beats Vasyl Lomachenko. No advantages at all.
Wouldn't even be close.
Wouldn't even be close.
If Haney wins, that's the only way Bob potentially loses, because if he decides to then scatter those belts or leave Top Rank, then Bob has to start from scratch.
That's a great point, brother.
That's true, Base.
That's a great point.
We forgot about that, Base, because what's Haney got? 1 fight left with Top Rank, and that's it, right?
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point.
That's why I have to bring Base on, man. He brings up these points.
Capricorn, all right, you know that, right? Base is a Capricorn. You know that, right?
I remember you telling me a couple times in the past. But Jose Ramirez has said he will not fight Regis Prograis for anything less than $1 million.
You're gonna hold his ransom.
Do you gentlemen on this panel agree with his demands, D-style? I see you shaking your head. Go.
Okay, so now you're gonna hold everybody ransom? Like, oh, give me $1 million or else? Like, is that what it is, bro? Like, we're not hostages. We're good. You know what I mean? I could see other guys fighting Prograis. It is what it is. Right? You want $1 million? Show me why you like. If you deserve $1 million, that you could have your manager take care of that. Show the promoters, and I'm pretty sure we'll have no problem making a fight. Right? But do you have anything to prove you can draw that type of money? Because then you wouldn't be holding anybody ransom. This sounds like, look, I know I'm going to get my ass beat, so pay me for it. If you want me to be a name on this dude's resume, because believe me, and I've been saying this for about 3 years, probably longer, Prograis beats Ramirez. 10 out of 10 times. Beats him. All right? It's a bad style matchup for Ramirez. All right? I like Ramirez, but I don't think he wins that fight. But I just think that's what it is. It's like, I want my little retirement check, I guess. I don't know what he wants, but where else are you going to go? Are you going to go to welterweight? Who are you going to fight at welterweight? Spence? You want to be fed to Crawford? Like, who are you going to fight? Rachel Ortiz? Boots? Dude, you might as well. Like as much as I don't think you be Prograis, you have a better shot in that fight. So if I was you, I would just take that fight. It ain't my fault you wanted to get married, okay? You want to get married? Cool. I don't have a problem with that. But that's your problem, right? Now, you could have postponed the wedding. It is what it is. You weren't willing to do that? Okay. But now you want to hold us ransom, right? And say, give me $1 million. And yes, it is us. So we're the ones that pay for these apps and pay for these networks and pay for these pay-per-views. Okay, we're the ones that fund this shit, right? Money's fight night. The freaking budget is fight night. This motherfucker wants $1 million. If he gets it, cool. But you wouldn't be asking for it like this if you knew you were worth that, right? You will let your manager take care of that.
That's true.
Right? You will let your promoter take care of that. Like, I'm worth $1 million. Go give me that fucking bag, all right? Call me when the fight's done. That's what you'll be saying, all right? At the end of the day. I'm tired of these fighters holding the sport ransom, demanding more money, and they're talking about their life and their health and in a sport that you chose to participate in. Ain't nobody drag you, to participate as a prize fighter. Ain't nobody forced you to do this shit. You made a decision to be a prize fighter, all right? So don't look at us and try to give us with crocodile tears and try to make us feel guilty and shit, because all fighters put their lives on the line. All fighters, get injured and hurt and have wear and tear and have brain damage. All fighters, not just you. All fighters. The dudes you knocked out, all right? What about their health? So all I know is this, all right? If you don't want the fight, because that's what it sounds like to me, then they'll go fight somebody else. And I look forward to watching Prograis Taylor after Taylor gets his revenge with homeboy over there.
Like, what do they always say? The quickest way to get out of a fight is price yourself out of it. Do you think that's happening here? And do you anticipate Ramirez is going to get $1 million to fight Richard Coleman?
I know this. Well, let me just say, Regis Prograis, one of my favorite fighters. He's old school. Great mentality. He's a smart guy. He's a historian. He reads books on boxing. Dude really knows his stuff, and I love that about him. And he's one of my favorite guys. I'd want at least $1 million to fight Regis Prograis. Shit, he's a tough guy. So I get what Ramirez is saying in that respect, but to D-Style's point, this is about economics, right? So Ramirez, he sells well in Northern California. He can probably do what is it? The Save Mart Arena. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, right up there in Fresno. He can pull those numbers up there. But if he's getting $1 million, then that means Prograis is getting at least $2 million, right? You're not getting a site fee because it's not at a casino. Are you going to be able to drive enough in ticket sales, in sponsorships, and everything else to cover $3 million?
I just did the math on 14,000 to generate 1 million. The average ticket price would have to be about $71. That's just for 1 million. So
you got to triple that. So now you're talking, 210 or something like that. Northern
Farmers.
California, that's a tough sell, because Northern California, it's not LA, it's not San Francisco. It's a different, clientele up there, more working class. And it's going to be hard to, again, and we're not even factoring in all the other associated costs, right? And you're not getting that casino buy-in and everything else. So I don't know if it's worth $1 million for that kind of a fight. You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Prograis. That sounds like a fun fight. And that's so marketable. You could do that in California or Texas. I don't know where he goes from here if you're demanding that kind of money to fight Prograis. I don't want to be too harsh and call it a duck, but it's certainly an avoidance. But at the same time, I kind of don't blame him. Prograis a bad dude. But if you want to fight for a title, he's got one now. You're going to go after the main man or what? That's why you're here, right? You want to get titles. So
that's true. Is this fight doable, hot boxing, by paying Ramirez $1 million? Can they do it? Is it feasible?
He made it pretty clear that the money's not right for him. Kind of disconcerting, but Adrian Broner in a recent interview when he was on the Porterway podcast essentially said the same thing, and it's a very disheartening pattern to see. Fighters are essentially admitting, like, why am I going to take the hard fight for less when I can fight an Ivan Redkach or a Richard Comey and get paid, some kind of small 7-figure amount. Regis Prograis has been calling out Jose Ramirez since the Amir Imam fight, like 2017 or 2018. As soon as Ramirez got that strap, he was getting called out, and then Prograis got caught up in that tournament overseas. But it's just like after 3-4 years, it's like, man, it's not a good look, Jose. It's not a good look at all. I don't blame him for not wanting to get in the ring with Regis Prograis for anything less than $1 million, because I think Jose Ramirez is self-aware enough to know that after the ass kicking he got at the hands of Josh Taylor, it's probably going to be worse at the hands of Regis Prograis. And I don't know where he's going to get the good money to fight. The best money he would get, I would think for a fight would be with Regis Prograis, despite whatever the mandated split was, 75-25, as opposed to a bloated lightweight and Richard Comey. Like it sucks because I like Jose Ramirez, but it's clear and evident he just really wants to avoid that smoke with Prograis. And I don't co-sign for that. I don't co-sign for that behavior at all. Nah, go get a title. Go fight for that strap. Go face, go fight New Orleans if you want. I mean, maybe you'll get more money out of a home-based New Orleans crowd as opposed to going out to Fresno or Avenal or what have you. But how long are you gonna let a man call you out?
That's true. That's true. Ring, you had an interesting take on this, man. Why don't you let everyone know your thoughts on this topic?
Well, I mean, for starters, this is bigger than Regis and Jose. This is about Bob not dealing with Probellum. Jose cited that himself. Bob doesn't want to deal with Probellum. He doesn't want to deal with Probellum fighters. Jose said that himself, and Bob said that himself months ago. Essentially, look, I'm with everybody on the panel. Jose doesn't want this fight. But do I think $1 million is a lot to ask for? No, actually, I don't. I think he's good for the $1 million. $1 million's not too much. The real issue is that Jose has other options that are just as, if not more lucrative than fighting for a title. Ramirez versus Lopez, that sells. If he can get at the winner of Taylor versus Catterall, that's sky money, because they're throwing a lot of money at a lot of fights that ain't even worth that. Right? Look at what they're offering Lawrence. Lawrence ain't no big ticket seller, but they want to make him the goddamn face of the platform. If Jose's willing to go over there for that money's there. So it's not as simple as saying, and I'm not speaking for him. I don't think he wants to fight. I don't think he ever wanted to fight. But it's also, Bob never offered Regis anything. There were no negotiations. He never offered him anything. So that's saying that, let's say that Jose wanted to fight. The only way that fight happens is if Top Rank doesn't pay for it, because Bob does not want anything to do with Probellum at all. The only reason a Donaire fight likely happened is because the promoters over there in Japan paid for Inoue to fight Donaire, not Top Rank. That's them dealing with Probellum. For those that don't know, Donaire is a Probellum fighter. He was signed, I think it was either earlier this year or late last year, but he's a Probellum fighter. Bob doesn't want to get wrapped up in that clusterfuck of Daniel Kinahan and the tenuous association that Probellum has to him. So it's bigger than just Jose. You know, that even if Jose wanted it, I think the only way that fight happens is if someone else pays for it, which is why he's asking for $1 million. That, you know, you're with he said it himself, you're with Probellum, but they don't have a network. And that's the problem. And what I hear when he says that is, if you had $1 million for me that you could give me, I would do the fight. But you don't have $1 million for me, you know? And if you're waiting for Bob to pay for it, Bob won't, because you're a Probellum fighter. He been said he don't want to deal with y'all. He said that months ago, that I don't want nothing to do with this shit. That's why he didn't bid on Prograis versus Zepeda, because Regis is a Probellum fighter. He didn't want nothing to do with that because of the U.S. sanctions, because of Daniel Kinahan. There's a tenuous association there between Daniel and Probellum. They signed a lot of fighters, Probellum, that just so happen to be MTK Global fighters. And who is MTK Global linked to? Daniel Kinahan. Bob is not going to pay for that fight.
Don't forget Richard Schaefer, though.
Also, yeah, but he's just the front man.
I know, but I don't think. Do you think Bob wants to have anything to do with him?
I don't think it would be the end of the world. But the real thing here is, look, the U.S. government sanctioned this man. If I'm Bob, I don't touch Probellum with a 10-foot pole. I don't want them sniffing around here asking me about shit, because I got my own dirty shit I'm doing. You know, I got my own shit going on. I don't need John Law coming in here asking me about nobody. So what I see is, did Jose avoid Regis? I feel he did. But also, even if he didn't, if he wanted to fight, the only way this fight happens is if Top Rank don't pay for it. That means you're going to need to get Black Prime, you know, you're going to need to get them, or you're going to need to get Marv Nation to bid on it again. Somebody else has to pay for this, because Bob won't. If you look at what happened, they never got to the point to where they start talking about numbers. Comey popped up as an alternate almost immediately, like, no, this is not happening. He's fighting Comey. It was quick. And that tells me y'all were never going to do this fight. Irrespective of Jose, who I do think he avoided Regis, but irrespective of him, Top Rank was never going to do this. And based on that, Top Rank's not doing Lopez versus Prograis either. Same dichotomy. We're going to deal with Regis? No, we're not going to deal with Regis. He's a Probellum fighter. We're not doing this. So I don't know what Lopez is going to do, probably Barboza. We know Jose's probably going to do Comey, and that's just the way it is. And Regis, maybe he floats over to Black Prime. I don't know he fights over there, but, you know, it's just, it is the way it is, man. It is what it is. But it's bigger than Jose. That's what I want to get across. It is bigger than Jose. Bob does not want to deal with Probellum, and that has to be factored into the equation. He is determined not to have no business with them. So you have to think about that too, that even if Jose wanted to fight, would Bob pay for it? Probably not.
I sincerely hope Prograis' deal with Probellum is not long term, because I don't think Bob's going to be the only one not wanting to do business with Probellum either. I think they're going to have problems all across the board, in my opinion. Base, do you agree with Ring? I tend to kind of agree with that. That take makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, he said a lot of things that I would have said. So let me try and find a few other little caveats to make myself useful on the panel. So I think, I don't think $1 million is too much to ask for personally, because he's made most of his purses. I think that the most recent ones have been upwards of that kind of money anyway. I mean, I know that, what was it, he made 4.1 for the fight with Mo Hooker. I know that was years ago when, you know, money was flowing over at the Zone, but the Taylor fight, I think he made just under 2 mil or something like that. So I can see him saying, well, look, this is like the minimum I'm going to take for a title fight. But then again, as Ring said, I mean, ultimately, who's funding it? Because it's definitely not Bob. So then the only option you might have is to say, all right, well, if you get it to 60-40, which is what I said is my absolute minimum purse split, then let's take it to purse split. Let's see who bids for it. Because if Marv Nation, based on what they've done for Jose Zapata, there's no reason to say they wouldn't bid something similar-ish for this one. You got BLK Prime. The Zone might jump in there because Ramirez, Mexican, they might see that as a bit of value to get a bit more of a new Mexican subscriber fan base. or to have the global fan base, because there's people around the world that just want to see good fights. Over here in the UK, I know people would subscribe to DAZN just to watch Prograis and Ramirez, based off of what happened with Prograis and Taylor when they watched that on Sky Sports. So yeah, I mean, there are those options. So I can see Ramirez saying, $1 million. It doesn't seem unreasonable to me, but yeah, again, I guess it's just about who's going to pay for it, and the fact that Probellum has no platform. I think that's the biggest issue with this whole situation. If they had their own network or their own platform, even if it was something akin to Fight TV, then he might be more willing to do it. But ultimately, he'll make more than $1 million against Comey, because Comey is not going to command that big kind of purse either. So yeah, I also agree. Yeah, when Ring said he's not really fighting for titles anymore. He's been a world champion. Now it's about securing the bag for later on in life. I don't think he's got aspirations for the world titles or to be undisputed anymore.
Okay. All right. Mike, before you head out, I wanted to get your take on this Joshua Franco Kazuto Ioka fight, excuse me, this Saturday. This is like a 50-50 fight. A lot of people are picking Ioka, but the odds are very tight here. I think Ioka is like a -160 and Franco is a +140. I think Franco is very live here. What are your thoughts before you head out?
Yeah, first let me say I had a great time, fellas. I hope you guys all have had a great, happy holidays, and you have a great new year. My wife is calling me to go help with the baby, so I gotta go. I'd love to stay on and keep chatting, though. This has been great, man. I love that fight, and it is an absolute travesty that one of the streaming platforms did not pick that up here in the West. I just don't understand it. That's the kind of matchup that boxing nerds subscribe to DAZN, ESPN Plus, whatever. That's the value that I'm always complaining about that's lacking on those streaming platforms. They also need to pick up shows like this. How hard would it be for DAZN or so to pick up the Roundtable? I think that would provide so much value, or any of the shows you guys do. Anyway, I could rant on that for an hour. I really like the matchup. Franco is battle tested with his 2 trilogies. I think that it gave him tremendous experience, but more than that, confidence. And he's really beaming right now with confidence. It's happening in Japan, though. They do those annual, New Year's Eve fights. I have to shade Ioka. And I think that a lot of fans here in the West still are sleeping on him and haven't really seen him fight a lot. I've seen a lot of his fights. I actually like him to win this fight, maybe like 116, 112, something like that. That's what I see.
Gotcha. All right, Mike. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks,
guys. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
It. Always a pleasure, man. D-Style, who do you like here? Ioka or Franco? Can Franco upset the apple cart? These odds are razor close. This is a virtual 50-50.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. When this fight was first announced, I honestly, my instinct was, Ioka's gonna win. Like that was my. But it's a good fight. But Ioka, But the closer the fight's gotten, like the more I'm thinking, and I've heard people like make a case for Franco, and they're making great points, and I'm like, you know what? Like, this is a dangerous fight for Ioka. Like Franco, he's pulled the upset before against Maloney. I mean, he's this is what he does. He feels comfortable when that. Keep in mind, he was the Golden Boy fighter, loaned out to Top Rank to fight somebody that Top Rank was trying to build up. And Maloney, I mean, he's been here before, right? Now, granted, this time it's over there in Japan, but he's been here before, so I'm not expecting him to come in flat or be overwhelmed with the moment. Or I think we're going to get the best Franco, quite Franco, right? And I think it should be a good fight. I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think Franco is going to start strong. I think he might even be ahead early on my scorecard. And I say mine because we never know how the judges have it. But I think the consensus will be that he's going to be ahead early. But somewhere in the middle rounds for sure, I think Ioka takes over. He settles in and wins a very tough decision, but it'll be wide on the scorecards, though.
Ring, can we get an upset special here? Because we love upsets.
I mean, Franco would be more live to me if he weren't coming off a stint of inactivity. that bothers me, that he hasn't fought in such a long time, coupled with the fact that Ioka, he seems to rise to the occasion. He was the underdog in the Tanaka fight. He was the underdog in that fight. And he just destroyed him. Like, bro, it was a complete annihilation. And in the Palikte fight before that, he rose to the occasion in that fight. He's one of these guys that, depending on the occasion, he's going to rise. He didn't look fantastic leading up to Palikte. Didn't look fantastic after Kosei Tanaka. What does he do? He avenges the loss to Dani Nietes. So I feel like because of where it is, because of Kazuto being who he is, the most conservative prediction would have to be Ioka on points. Ioka on, like, I don't think he's just gonna ragdoll Franco. But at the same time, how long has it been since you fought? A year? Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that shit one bit. And you know, it's also, Franco's been stopped before. Unless I'm mistaken, he has been stopped once.
Yeah.
Ioka's got a really nice left hook. So I'm like, look, man, if I have to bet, I go Ioka if I have to.
Okay. Base, any upsets here? What do you think?
No upsets for me. Now I like Joshua Franco, and he benefited a lot from a lot of the activity he had during sort of lockdown and just before that. You know, having 2 trilogies in the space of 2.5 years is a bit wild. But the issue with this one, his biggest benefit in this fight is the fact that he's naturally a lot bigger than Ioka is, like in terms of size, body mass, density, because, you know, 115 is kind of like his first weight, whereas Ioka, that's his 4th. So on that front, he's more not struggling, but he's having to cut down a lot to make that weight, whereas Ioka's now just very comfortable. So if he rehydrates to a certain point, he can maybe use big guy tactics in there, even though that's not necessarily his style, but that might be something to consider. But this will be like the first time since the Tanaka fight that Ioka's actually had Ishmael Salas for the full length of a camp. And he's been training in the US with Ishmael Salas. And I think they went back over last week or the week before, but he's been there for, like, you know, he's properly been in camp with him, you know, honing his rhythm the same way that he did for that Tanaka fight. He's a very rhythmic fighter. If he gets his rhythm right, especially in those first couple rounds, Franco is just going to have a hard night. And with the 16 months out of the ring since his last fight, that's a long time to go for someone, especially someone that's essentially kind of boiling themselves into that 115 frame. So I can see there being some rust that he's going to have to get off, and he might end up being like a front runner, fast starter, first sort of 4 or 5 rounds. But I'm leaning towards an Ioka late stoppage. I'm talking rounds 9, 10.
Spicy.
Hot boxing. Who do you like here? How's this going to play out?
I could see a stoppage, but I think the fight goes the whole distance. Just the resumes are worlds apart when it comes to Josh Franco and Kazuto Ioka. I got on the Ioka train a little bit late, but you know, I definitely caught on right around the time when he had that Kosei Tanaka fight. And I think I saw like a couple of other fights before that. But yeah, Josh Franco, I mean, he had those trilogies, you know, Maloney and Negrete, but that's not going to compare to a Felix Alvarado or a Dani Nietes or a, you know what I mean, a Kosei Tanaka. It just doesn't. And, you know, Kazuto Ioka, in my mind, he's one of like the unofficial 4 kings of that super flyweight. Him, Dani Nietes, they don't really have like the same kind of cultural clout as, say, a Chocolatito does, but Kosei Tanaka is the man. Like, and they roughly have the same physical size. I think Josh Franco might be a little bit stockier naturally, but they're both 5'5". I think somebody mentioned earlier, Josh Franco probably will take the lead early, and I can see that happening. But Kosei Tanaka's commitment to body work and Kosei Tanaka's hands just overall are heavier. Like his punches that just thud a lot harder. And
you mean Ioka?
Yeah, Ioka. Sorry, Kazuto Ioka. His hands are just heavier than Franco's. Period. So it'll be a battle of attrition, and I think it's going to go the whole distance. And you know, I could see, you know, Kazuto up by 3 or 4 rounds at least, maybe even a stoppage if that body work is heavily invested in early. But I'm definitely favoring Kazuto Ioka on this. Joshua Franco's up against the wall, and I'm very surprised the odds are as close as they are. But this is
razor close.
Yeah, this is a boxing nerd gem of a fight to end the year with. I think the casual fans aren't really paying attention to this one, but I remember when the Tanaka fight was on, only the hardcore nerds were into that one too, and that one was a jewel because
I was an amazing fight.
Yeah, he picked apart Tanaka shockingly because I thought Tanaka was going to win that
man.
fight.
You know, I picked Tanaka in that fucking fight.
I did too. I was like, holy crap. Yeah, and I'm not going to bet against Kazuto Ioka again.
Kazuto. I'm going to go to one of Ring's favorite topics, Errol Spence. Spence was interviewed recently, and he has claimed that he's coming back in between April and June because he's still coming off that injuries from the car accident. And he told the interviewer that he has hella options. So is one of those hella options most likely going to be Keith Thurman? Ring, what do you think is going to happen with Errol Spence this upcoming year?
I think he fights Keith Thurman. And I think that the buildup now is a buildup towards Sebastian Fundora, who just so happens to afford a common opponent, Carlos Ocampo. That's not an accident. That's deliberate. I believe that the play, which I mentioned earlier, is to move Jermell up to 60, Jermell up to 68, and Errol up to 54. I believe that in their matchmaker's mind, Errol should beat a Fundora. That's what their matchmaker is thinking. He should beat Murtazaliev. And I've long maintained for the last 4 years that at 154, that's where this hype train stops. That's where it stops. You've made it clear that you're going to play it safe with the guys that are on your side of the street. The guys on your side of the street are not the caliber of a Terrence Crawford, who I've often referred to as Achilles reborn. You know, that's what the fuck he is. And I believe that Fundora might be the guy that gets him, not because I'm high on Fundora, but because I'm so low on Errol. You know, I believe he'll fight Keith Thurman, and, you know, maybe he decisions Thurman. You know, Queefy, maybe he conjures up, you know, his legs one last time. But I believe he can beat today's Keith Thurman. I really do. And beyond that, I firmly believe he's going to 54 because there's pressure from Jaron Ennis and Cameron Duncan and Showtime to deliver Ennis a signature fight. Well, if you're Errol, you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to deal with that. And then there's the Virgil Ortiz kid, to where I say, look, this is a huge fucking fight in Jerry's house. But are you guys really going to do it with Golden Boy? I don't think so. And you would have to, bro. Like, you would. You're not going to cut them out of this. Why would they even want to do it if they're not going to be a part of it? It's a huge fight, yes. But Golden Boy and DAZN have to be involved. And if they're not, it doesn't happen. So I'm like, what are your options? The options you're referring to, they must be at 154 because they're not at 147. At 147, it's Ennis, Ortiz, and Crawford. We see you don't really care about this Crawford fight. We know. Ennis, come on, bro. Nobody think you're going to fight Ennis. And while Ortiz is a good fight, politics. And to be real with y'all, I don't know that he beats Virgil. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not high on Errol, bro. I see a good southpaw. I don't see a great southpaw. I see a good southpaw, right? And I think Virgil, because he's so big and he's young and he hits hard and he doesn't give a fuck about nobody, he might fucking hurt the guy, bro. He throws punches. Who remembers that line in Batman? You fight like a younger man with nothing held back. That's how Virgil fights. He fights like you rolled over his cat in the driveway. This fucking guy's crazy. So I think he's going to fight Thurman, and after he fights Thurman, he moves up. That's what I think.
Good takes, Ring. Shout out to Luis Puenta. He says, Spence 3 fights away from retirement, my opinion. Shout out to Puente. What did I say? Puenta?
Yeah, Puente. It's Puente.
Puente? Okay. Shout out to Nando Lamas. Said, agreed, Calix. Please jab the like. Thanks. All right. D-Style, I know you're a huge Spence fan. Do you agree with what Ring said just there?
Look, a hell of options. It's like, well, we all have a hell of options, right? When we go to the voting booth, there's a hell of options, but there's only 2 realistic ones, right? I could vote Libertarian, Green Party. I could vote Independent. I could do a write-in if I want. I could do Kanye West in the right. I could do a lot of things, right? But there's only two realistic options, right? So how many realistic hella options does he have, right? You're gonna do whatever the fuck you're told is what this dude's gonna do, right? And you know what that is? It's everybody knows. It's like the well, you know, like when there's a secret in a small town, everybody knows, but nobody can tell. Like everybody just knows it's Keith Thurman. Everybody knows it's Keith Thurman. Like stop playing around. Like these guys are told to say these things. They tell everybody you have a hell of options. That to tell them, you have a bunch of options. You know, like you have so many options, you're sick of it. You know what I mean? Like you don't know what to do with all these options. You have binders full of options. Right? Just go ahead and tell them that. At the end of the day, man, like it's gonna fight Keith Thurman. Like he's like we know it's not Virgil, we know it's not Boots. Okay, like all those hell of options are on the table. Just like you could vote Libertarian. You know, when next presidential campaign comes, guess what? It ain't gonna matter, right? That's not a realistic option. So Spence. You don't even have two options. I just have two. He has one, and it's Keith Thurman. And they're going to just hand over the contract to him. He's going to sign it. That's what he's going to do. Okay, because he's not the boss he's pretending to be. Okay, he's not that dude. Oh, I have a lot of options. I'm weighing my options and all this shit. Man, the only thing you're weighing is it's not on the scale because you're looking like the nutty professor out here. Okay, Hercules. All right, I'm just saying. All right, that's all I got.
Boxing. Does Spence have hella options?
No, he doesn't have hella options. I'd definitely lean more towards what D-Style was saying. Like we can postulate all day about, you know, what Lubin at 154. I don't know, Fandora. Like, and it's gonna be Keith Thurman. Like, and it sucks because I don't want to, you know, PBC just moves so funny sometimes. But it's like, okay, he's gonna fight Keith Thurman. That's it. And you know, he got in a car wreck. He's not looking, you know, he got some injuries, apparently some residual injuries, and then he's in the video looking like he's off that lean or something. I don't know. It's just not a good look, but there aren't hella options because he sure as hell is not going to get in there with Boots. He's not going to get in there with Virgil because there's across the aisle politics on that situation. He's not going to fight Jermell at 154, but I think we all kind of are in agreement that Jermell's likely going to move up to 160. So maybe something happens when the belts get redistributed. I don't know, but it's Keith Thurman. He's fighting Keith Thurman. He's not going to fight Terrence Crawford. That fight's not going to happen. I'm over that shit. Welcome to one-time Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman is not who he used to be. His legs went with his hairline. It's Errol Spence and Keith Thurman. That's what we're doing next.
Christ.
Ta-da!
You know who has hell of options? Canelo has hell of options. Okay, when he's done with his contract with Matchroom, guess what? He's gonna go to the highest bidder. Okay, that's what he's gonna do. You know what Spence is gonna do? You got no options. You're going to Showtime, right? You're going to Showtime, and you're okay. It's gonna be with Jimmy Lennon Jr. That's your announcer. Okay, it's Showtime, and you're gonna fight Keith Thurman. Those are his options.
Base is D-Style, right?
Or about not having hella options or having hella options?
Well, he said he says he doesn't have hella options. Do you think Spence has hella options?
No, he's got hella options at the buffet. Pure choice. Right, look, we all know realistically, if it's not Thurman and it's not Crawford, actually no. Let me double back. He has hella options that no one cares about apart from the Crawford fight. So anything else he does, it's going to be reflected in whatever pay-per-view buy rates they try to generate. So yes, he's got hella options in the avoidance category, but none of it is going to yield him the kind of money he feels he should be earning, that he should develop, and that, you know, that he ultimately feels he's worth, and to cement his pound on this mythical pound for pound list that he always seems to get on, even though he's done less than anyone else, you know, in who's within those pound for pound rankings. Like he's not multi-weight. It took him damn near 6 years to unify 3 titles. Ain't got the 4th one, don't want to get the 4th one, but yet somehow people want to have him as 3 and 4 on their pound for pound list based off of what? I can't tell you. Every fight he's ever had, he's had to fight the other person's fight because he weren't good enough to make them fight his. But yet he's number 3 or 4 on the pound for pound list. Cool. best win is Mikey Garcia, 2 weight divisions up from where we should have been. But you're number 3 or 4 in the pound for pound list. Like I said, hella options. Oh, he's also got some more options because it's either Ray and Nephews or Appletons. Like one or the other. That's for the Caribbeans who might be in the chat watching.
Hella options doesn't always mean great options from the fans' perspective. But I digress. Last topic of the night. We're going to go around the panel. I'm going to ask all of you, name 3 fights on your wish list for 2023. We're going to start with you, Hot Boxing Minute.
Muted.
Oh, you're muted, sir.
You're muted,
sir. You're muted.
I'm gonna go into dream fights, and I might be digging into the land of imagination on this one, so bear with me on this one. All right, Bernardo Lopez just won the IBF. I believe Mauricio Lara is going to beat Wood and get the WBA, and I want to see that unification fight because it's going to be violence for the 4 to 6 rounds that it lasts. I want to see Bernardo Lopez against Bronco Lara in the ring. That's just mayhem, epic level violence. I want to see my man Bam Rodriguez go against Sonny Edwards, arguably the 2 best foot movers in the game, and that's just going to be a math equation unfolding. Honestly, I'd give Sonny Edwards a pretty damn good shot against Bam Rodriguez. Just the way they move is fascinating. And Naoya Inoue against Stephen Fulton. I want to see that fight. I don't know if it's going to happen. I got on my bam. There you go, Jules.
I had to add that Sonny Edwards is a Capricorn. I just had to say that.
Nice.
Yes.
And I don't know if that Stephen Fulton or Naoya Inoue fight's going to happen. I respect Stephen for getting that get back with Brandon Figueroa going up to 126. Will he come back down to 122? I'm going to be patient, even though PBC has consistently been breaking my heart for the last forever. But come on, cool boy. You had a good run up until this point. Please don't let me down. Even though probably will. But hey, I'm a dreamer. I want to see Naoya Inoue, Stephen Fulton. Those are my 3 fights.
Base, hit me.
Okay, so my 3 fights are, look, we all know the standard ones, so I've got 3 kind of alternatives. I actually would like to see Felix Alvarado against Julio Cesar Martinez. That's a fight I would like to see, especially now that he's moved up to 112. I think that's just utter carnage, and I love utter carnage. That's popcorn and soda time for me. I would also like to see Joe Joyce versus Arslan Bekmambetov. Again, nothing but carnage. These are fights I'd never expect to really happen, but yeah. And then if I'm gonna have my actual, the hardcore side, I think I would like to see I'd like to see Kosei Tanaka against Bunto Nakatani. That's what I'd like to see.
Ooh.
I'd like to see.
Wow. Base, we're gonna have to give you a matchmaker's license after those 3.
There we go.
Anytime.
All right. D-Style, hit me with your 3.
Wish upon a star. This is the fights I want. A lot of similar names, but just different fights. For me, I want to see Gallo Estrada against Bam Rodriguez. That's a fight I want to see. That's a hell of a fight. I'm not going to tell you who I think wins, but I know who most people are going to pick, and I'm not going to pick that person. I'll just say that. All right. Okay, so that's that one. All right. And it is a standard one, but I have to say it just because I'm just not too sure about Fury. So I want to see Fury Usyk for
already
the
done. It's already signed.
It's not done. I need to see it. Okay, I need to see it. I need the contract. Ryan Garcia. Okay,
I just want to tell you, I've been told it's done. Saudi Arabia.
Okay, that's
it's done.
Cool, but I want
it's
to
already
see
done.
It happen. I'm still going to say I need to see it happen. All right, in the year 2023. I want to see it happen. Undisputed heavyweight championship of the world for all the belts. I don't want anybody to get stripped. Okay, that has a good ring to it. It needs to happen. Another one, and this is a fight that should have happened since way back in 2016. Didn't happen. Whatever. right? And I don't care what anybody says. This is a fight I've always wanted to see, and a fight that must happen. It's a grudge match. AJ Wilder. I want to see that fight.
So those are two good picks because Usyk and Fury's already done.
I'll give you another one. I'll give you a third one if okay, fine.
There's one last one I'd just like to add. I would like to see Chocolatito run it back with Rungvisai one last time to see if he can get back that win, so that he can have a victory over every single person he's ever faced.
Damn.
Can't beat Rungvisai. That's his silver bullet.
That's kryptonite.
It's kryptonite. He's gonna hit him between the punches. He loses the fourth one. I mean, the third one. He'll lose. He'll lose again.
I
think Benavidez Canelo. I'll just say that one then.
Oh, that was one of mine. But go ahead, Ring.
All right. I'm only going to pick fights that I don't think are going to happen, which takes Fury versus Usyk out of it. I need Beterbiev versus Bivol. I need that.
It's another one of mine too.
I need that. I need Taylor versus Baumgartner because I believe Alicia will beat her. I need that. What's another one that I don't think is going to happen? I mean, if we're going to wish, I'd wish that Crawford versus Spence happens because I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm going to go with that.
We don't even get in our dreams. Come on.
What about Katie Taylor Serrano? You think the rematch with Katie Taylor and Serrano would happen?
No, it's going to it's going to happen. 2-fight deal, Matchroom. It's done. It's done. And I'll just say I'll keep it short. The fighter that makes the adjustments usually wins the rematch. I think Amanda's a great fighter, honestly do. But Katie's more capable of making adjustments. So I'll leave it there. A fight that I don't think is going to happen, because those are the only fights I'm picking. A fight that I don't think is going to happen is Crawford versus Charlo. I don't even – and I'm a huge Bud fan, man. I love the fucking guy. But I cannot tell you that I'm 100% confident he wins that fight. So if I were going to wish, I'd wish for that.
I'm going to throw another one in there that I would like to see because this one does have history, right? Jermell Charlo versus Demetrius Andrade.
We're getting that. We're probably
going to getting that? You think we're going to get that?
We're going to get that. It's just a question of when, not if. But we're going to – why do you think he's over there, bro? You think he's going to – you think Jermell's going to fight Benavidez? It's not going to happen, bro.
No. You know what? You know why I'm skeptical, Ring? Because they had Keith Thurman and Errol Spence over there for the longest time, and they never got that done. And that kind of pissed me off a little bit because
they're desperate, bro. Like the fact that they signed Demetrius Andrade, I think that's an act of desperation just signing him, bro. Like that's how thin the stable is right now. That you're signing Andrade. I'm sorry, bro. I would touch that dude with 10-foot pole. Like, bro, what you gonna do over here? We ain't got no Jason Quigley's over here, bro. He'd fight people.
What do you think the biggest fight of the year is going to be next year? You think it's going to be between the best heavyweight of all time, Tyson Fury, and Alexander Usyk?
No, I believe it could be the biggest fight of the year. Could be, and I don't know because he draws the most. Canelo versus Bivol too, but I don't. I don't
that's
know.
Going to happen.
That's what I was gonna allude to. That the rematch, if it happens, draws more than most, if not all, of what happens in America. But I am not confident that rematch is gonna happen. I'm not like, bro, that makes no sense fiscally. He beat you thoroughly, bro. You don't win a rematch. I don't know what you're gonna do differently, but it's not gonna work. You're gonna lose again. So leave him alone. He won. It's cool. He doesn't even say much. He doesn't speak English, so he doesn't talk shit. Leave him alone. Right, he beat you. He's a big guy. He looks like a Bond villain. Leave him alone, bro. Just leave him alone.
Well, this was a great show tonight. I want to thank everyone for stopping by. Thank you in the chat. Thank you, Base. Thank you, Ring. Thank you, D-Style. Thank you, Hotbox a Minute. Nice to have you back. And we'll see you next year, baby.
See you next year, guys. Go vote on the polls, by the way, on my channel.
Vote on the polls, baby.
We're out. Peace.